So you're thinking about flying Sri Lankan Airlines from London to Colombo? Well, we are about to break down every single thing you need to know about this 11-hour journey. We're talking everything from the moment you step foot in the airport to that last meal in the sky. Let's dive right in.
Okay, this is the big question, isn't it? An 11-hour flight time is one thing on paper, but what's it actually like? Is the seat going to be comfortable? Is the food any good? And, is it really worth the money? We're going to answer all of that piece by piece.
First things first, let's talk about the cost. An economy ticket on this route is typically going to run you somewhere between 600 and 1,000 euros. Now, the key thing to note here is that Sri Lankan Airlines is often one of the most competitively priced options out there, which makes it a really attractive choice right out of the gate.
Okay, let's start with the route itself. This is a pretty significant journey we're talking about. A direct shot from Europe to South Asia, covering nearly 9,000 kilometers.
So here are the vitals. You'll be on an Airbus A330-300 for about 10 to 11 hours. Make no mistake, this is a proper long-haul flight. It's a major artery for both tourists and business travelers. Knowing this really sets the right expectation, right? Comfort and service are absolutely going to be key here.
So look, the journey doesn't just start when the plane takes off. It really starts at the airport. So let's break down that whole ground experience, beginning at London Heathrow. Sri Lankan Airlines operates out of Terminal 3 at Heathrow. It's modern, it's efficient, but let's be honest, it is almost always packed. You should definitely plan for security and check-in to take anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes, especially during those peak times. But even with the crowds, the experience at Heathrow gets a very strong 8.8 out of 10. The facilities are just excellent, and things generally run like a well-oiled machine, which is pretty much all you can ask for at one of the world's busiest hubs. Now, once you get to the gate, boarding is done by zones, which is pretty standard stuff. But, and this is a big but, these flights are almost always completely full, carrying up to 300 people. So while it's organized, it is not what you'd call a quick process. And this brings us to a boarding score of 7.9 out of 10. It's a solid number that just reflects the reality of getting 300 people and their bags onto a plane. It's not really a flaw, just a fact of life on a popular route like this. All right, we are on the plane. This is the main event, right? The 11 hours you're going to spend in the air. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of the onboard experience. Okay, what might be the single most important factor for your comfort on this very long flight? You might think it's the food or the movies, but it's not. It's all about how the seats are arranged. See, the Airbus A330 uses a 242 configuration, and honestly, this is a total game changer. It means if you're traveling as a couple, you can snag a row all to yourselves. But more importantly, it drastically cuts down on the number of dreaded middle seats compared to that cramped 333 layout so many airlines use now. Finding a 242 is getting rarer, and it is a huge win for personal space. And beyond that great layout, the seat itself is pretty well equipped. You're looking at a decent 31 to 32 inches of pitch, 18 inches of width. Plus, you get all the modern essentials, an adjustable headrest, a personal screen, and a USB port to keep your devices charged. It's a really solid setup for a long trip. So when you add all of this up, you get a very impressive 8.5 out of 10 for seat comfort. And for economy class on an 11-hour flight, that's a massive win and a huge reason this airline really stands out. All right, let's talk about food. On this flight, you are not going hungry, that's for sure. You'll be served 2 full meals, and you get a choice. You can play it safe with a familiar Western dish, or you can dive right into the local culture with an authentic Sri Lankan option.
And the food scores an outstanding 8.7 out of 10. The quality is consistently high, but what really makes it special are those authentic Sri Lankan flavors. The curries are genuinely delicious, which makes the whole dining experience a real highlight of the journey.
Now for entertainment. Every seat has its own screen with a selection of movies, TV shows, and music. It works well, it's responsive, but it's fair to say the library just isn't as huge as what you might find on some of the other big-name carriers. And that brings the entertainment score to a 7.9 out of 10. Look, it's good, it's functional, and it'll definitely keep you busy. It's just not the absolute best in the sky. So, pro tip. If you're a big movie buff, loading up a tablet beforehand is probably a smart move. So after 11 long hours, you are finally descending into Sri Lanka. Let's quickly cover the arrival process and then pull everything together for the final verdict on this flight. Touchdown in Colombo is usually a pretty smooth affair. The airport's easy to get around, and with immigration typically taking between 20 and 40 minutes, the arrival process earns a solid rating of 8.3 out of 10.
So let's pull it all together. The big wins here are crystal clear. That fantastic 242 seating, the genuinely delicious food, and a price that is really hard to beat. On the flip side, the trade-offs are a smaller entertainment library and the potential for some big crowds on the ground.
So when we tally up all the scores from the airport to the boarding to the seat, food, and entertainment, we land on a final overall score of 8.4 out of 10. That is a very, very strong result that positions this flight as an excellent choice. Ultimately, what Sri Lankan airline delivers is a journey really defined by three things: comfort, culture, and value. The experience gets a huge boost from that fantastic food, and the competitive price just makes it an outstanding option for a long-haul trip. Which brings us right back to the ultimate question. Based on everything we've broken down, if you're prioritizing comfort, food, and value over a massive movie library, is this the right flight for your next journey to South Asia? Well, that decision is yours.